Have you ever thought of what it would be like to start an online business of your own? Maybe you've thought about it at some point, but it sounds too scary, too difficult to start. If you are serious about starting your own online business and wanting more freedom and more income, then this episode can help you. By the end of this episode, you will know exactly how to start your online business while you're working a full-time job. So if this sounds good to you, stick around. Hey you, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Actionables podcast. In case we haven't met before, my name is Payden. I work as an NLP life coach, and on this channel, we talk about everything that will help you simplify working on your life goals. If you are working on your life goals, go ahead and hit that follow button wherever you're listening to this or watching this so that you don't miss out on weekly episodes. And with that, let's jump into this one. Okay, I get it. Maybe you have a full-time job, meeting deadlines, family responsibilities, and about 2.5 units of mental energy left at 8 in the evening. And obviously, with so little energy, you tell yourself, I'll start when things calm down a little bit or when I have more energy. Does this sound like you? Well, if it does, you are not alone. It took me 9 years to start my online business. So I know a thing or two about relying on finding the inspiration or waiting for the right time to start. Today, I'm going to walk you through the real challenges of starting an online business while working a full-time job. The frustration most working professionals silently deal with and how to simplify the process so that you can actually start without burning out. If you're a working professional trying to build something on the side, this one is meant for you. Let's start with the brutal reality no one talks about, or at least it's talked about very rarely, which is starting an online business while working your full-time job is difficult. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is difficult. It is going to be challenging. And this difficulty has nothing to do with you being lazy. It's not because you lack discipline. It's because you may already be stretched thin. After a full day of decision making, problem solving, and interacting with people, your brain is fired. This is the reality of working a full-time job. However, another equal truth is that entrepreneurship requires creativity, energy, and initiative. If you're trying to become an entrepreneur, build your own online business with leftover energy, of course, that is going to be frustrating and challenging. I understand that doing both together may sound too much, which is why you have to be clear about why you would even like to do both in the first place. I know a lot of people close to me who love going to their jobs, who like going to work for their companies, and are quite satisfied in life. If you want to do both, that is your job and run an online business, the first thing you will have to wrap your mind around is the truth that it is going to be difficult. And if you've been listening to this podcast long enough, you know that I encourage you to do things that are difficult, and things being difficult is not an indication to run away and not start something that you truly want. So if you want to only work in your job, that's great. But you can stop listening to this or watching this because it may not serve you. It is only meant for you if you are slightly curious and thinking, okay, it may be difficult, but I am curious whether I will be able to do both. If this is where you are at, then keep listening or watching. So far, we have spoken about it being difficult to manage both a full-time job and starting an online business. So what is the real difficulty in being able to do both? The major difficulty is the mental exhaustion. Earlier, I mentioned that after a day's work, you are fried. So how can you still be creative and take initiative towards starting your online business? Well, the short answer is you've got to reduce your mental exhaustion or find ways to increase your energy. Now, I know it sounds simple, but here is an analogy. Consider this. Right now, we're talking about the option to start an online business while you're working a full-time job. This means that it is still an option. You still get to say, okay or no, I'm not doing this. But what if, as a hypothetical situation, starting an online business wasn't a choice? What if it was a necessity? How does that change things? From a mental exhaustion point of view, when something is just an option, you don't feel the pressure. You still have the option to back out, to not commit, and your life doesn't change much. On the other hand, when it becomes a necessity to do something, of course, there's going to be added pressure. Maybe because it may become a very real survival need. Think of how you would approach doing both your job and your business now. If I were to guess, I'd say you would find a way to make both happen, correct? Maybe you'd make changes to your lifestyle, you'd assess the time that you spend on your daily activities, you'd make this a priority, correct? Back to the status quo. Currently, this sense of prioritizing is lacking because it still feels like an option to you. And this is completely okay if you're still dabbling with the idea of doing both. There are no judgments here whatsoever. However, if you're on the fence, ready to start, then my 2 cents on handling mental exhaustion would be to prioritize, to reduce mental pressure, and get serious about how you spend your energy. Of course, there are tons of ways to do this. My suggestion would be to find what works for you, whether it is meditation, breath work, walking, taking short naps during the day. Figure out something that helps you specifically and then prioritize that, because you're going to need your energy in order to be able to do creative things and build that business. Now that we've looked at how to preserve your mental energy, which is critical, let's talk about the next topic that can trip you up even before you start, which is overwhelm from information. Maybe you've done a Google search before, something like online business ideas. Next, you may have found yourself drowning in topics such as drop shipping, digital products, coaching, freelancing, AI side hustles, etc. It can feel like all these ideas are there and people are making money except you. Immediately, you may think, wow, maybe I am already too late to the game. Maybe other people can do it. You may find yourself get overwhelmed with all the information that's there online. And this may cause paralysis and it can stop you before you even begin. Now, 2 things can happen here. One, you stop yourself and life goes on and nothing changes and you're comfortable. You still have your job. The other thing that can happen here is you can look at the information and be inspired and say, wow, there's so much opportunity here that I can explore. That is, if you truly want that. So far, we've covered the reality that it's going to be difficult to manage both your full-time job as well as to start your online business. You're going to have to prioritize your energy and not get overwhelmed by all the information that's out there. So let's break down how to start simply. So let's do this practically. For this part, you might want to get a notebook and pen. Ready? Step 1 is when you are thinking about how to start your online business, you want to focus and choose something that is skill-based rather than trend-based. This means don't chase fancy trends. It's easy to see something popular online and be tempted to try that out. Instead, ask yourself, what problem can I solve with the skills that I already have? Here's an example. If you're an HR manager, resume or interview consulting could be a business idea. If you're a fitness enthusiast, you may want to consider online fitness coaching. If you're creative with your hands and good at designing something, freelance branding could be a topic. Okay, I'm going to stop with these ideas, but hopefully you get the drift. Consider the skills that you already have, since skill-based businesses grow faster because you don't need to learn something new. You already know something valuable, and it's simple to start with something you already have. Step 2 is start with one offer. Once you've zeroed in and you know the skill that you want to monetize, think of what you can offer. Not 3, not 5, just one. Example of this would be one-on-one consulting on your preferred timings or a freelance service, again, on the predetermined timings that suit you for an extended coaching or a training program. And for absolute starters, I'm going to mention here that you don't need a fancy website, see branding, logo, or a company name registered immediately. All that you need to get started is a problem, a solution, and a way for people to pay you. That's it. It doesn't get simpler than this. You start with that one offer. Step 3 is use something called as the 16-minute rule. Now, remember, I agreed right at the beginning that working full-time and wanting to start an online business would be difficult. For this step, we have to face that difficulty head on. From your busy schedule, the suggestion that I have is to find 1 hour at a go or chunk it to 2 blocks of 30 minutes each. You don't need 4-hour work blocks, just 2 30-minute work blocks. And here's a simple structure that I followed before I started my online business. We have to start with the premise that you will not be able to create all of this in one sitting. Well, you can, but that's being over ambitious, and we don't want to do that. And frankly, we don't have the time for it. So what we're going to do is we're going to chunk it down to the things that we are going to do in the 2 30-minute blocks. So here's my suggestion. On Mondays, you can make a list of your strengths, your skills, and interests and decide on what you want to offer. That's it. You're going to focus only on this on the first day or on a Monday. Second day or on Tuesday, you're going to do research. You're going to identify audience pain points by looking up someone who has built what you want to build. It is not about imitation here. It's about getting inspired from someone who's already done what you want to do. And little sidebar here, most of the things that you want to do, someone somewhere has already done them. On day 3, on Wednesday, you can build. Now build what you want to offer. What I mean by this is you can write that simple offer on a piece of paper for starters, or you can start building it immediately using Canva. On Thursday, you can write the content. Create one valuable post on the topic of your interest, and you don't have to post it just yet. On Friday, you can just reflect on what has worked for you, what you have created so far. And that's it. That's how you work the 30 minutes, 2 block sessions from Monday to Friday, even though you may be extremely busy in your full-time job. I firmly believe that consistency beats intensity. It's better to work for 1 hour every day on the business that you want to create rather than a couple of hours just thinking about starting. Step 4, your job pays the bills. So don't sabotage it by burning yourself out. Here are some practical suggestions. You may want to consider waking up 30 to 45 minutes earlier instead of working past midnight. Second, you may want to batch create content on weekends. You may consider removing unnecessary commitments temporarily and limit social media doom scrolling. I have made a whole different episode on this, so feel free to check that out. It will help you with your doom scrolling. The important thing to remember here is your energy management, because the way you manage your energy leaves you with a lot more or a lot less energy that you can then use towards your online business. And finally, step number 5 is focus on income first, brand later. Now, most people focus on logo, aesthetics, color palettes, but income creates momentum. Ask yourself, how can I get my first paying client within the next 30 days? In my opinion, that's a much real and a practical goal to have, and not 10,000 followers on Instagram or a social media platform, but one paying client is going to help you with your confidence and belief. It's going to show you much real progress. So that's it. That's the 5 steps that you can start taking towards building your online business. You don't need anything else to get started. And in my opinion, it doesn't get simpler than this. But let's be honest. You will experience the imposter syndrome. You may feel that progress is much slower than expected. You may even find yourself comparing your journey with someone else, and you may start to doubt yourself. Now, all of this is very real, but you have to find a way to overcome this, because here's the truth. Your growth may feel invisible for months, but that doesn't mean that it is not working. You need to find a way to double down on your efforts and keep going and concentrate on working that 1 hour, even though you're doing your full-time job. I used to always remind myself that even though I could not see the results of my efforts just yet, it didn't mean that it was not working. It simply means that you are working and your efforts are taking time to show up. But the only thing that you can do is work and put in those efforts. To practically start your online business alongside me, I'm hosting a completely free masterclass on the 8th of March. To register, all you need to do is send me an email on paydenbhutia@paydenbhutia.com. The event will be for 2 hours, so come hang out with me and we'll go deeper in this topic. Everything that is required for you to get started on building your dream online business. And that does it for this episode. It's a wrap. Till next week, remember, you matter, your goals matter, and it's really up to you to make it happen. Take very good care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.